Did Jesus really come to Cornwall? I think he did, and here's why I think that. Last Sunday I went to the remembrance service at the church up where I used to live because I play with the silver band there. I play big bass drum, and we always do the parade and God Save the Queen. Oh God, it's King now, in the church. And this Sunday we sung the hymn Jerusalem, so commonly known as that, but its real title is And Did Those Feet in Ancient Times. So it was a poem originally written of that title, written by William Blake. I think it was like 1804 the date on the plates of when it was going to be printed, so I guess it's circa that sort of time. And then Sir Hubert Parry in 1920, no, it can't have been 24 because it was adopted. It was a morale boosting song for the war, 1916, and the suffragettes took it on as a song they for their suffrage movement, and that was like 1918. So and Edward Elgar, he did the orchestral arrangement that we all know, and it's an interesting one. So William Blake, he was a writer, poet, he was a painter, he did print works, but he was also a great mystic. And his art is really powerful. It's something that stuck out. I remember being doing art GCSE and going on the big school trip for the art students to the National and the Tate and seeing some of his work, and it's just, it's quite a thing to take on for a 14, 15-year-old, but I'd like to go back and see it again. Anyway, I'm waffling. And of course the hymn is now the anthem for the Women's Institute. But what was William Blake really talking about? Those feet of ancient times are referring to Jesus' feet, and it's, asking the question, did he come and walk on this land? Now that's quite an odd thing to think when we've been raised to believe that, Jesus was born and he stayed around in Nazareth learning to be a carpenter with his old man. And why on earth would he be coming to England? But there's a lot of, some say, legends and myths and lore around this, especially in Cornwall and definitely in Glastonbury and around areas local there in Somerset. And that's quite an extreme thing to make up just in one particular place, say St Just in Roseland, which is where there's a lot of local tradition that Jesus came to their little village. Also in St Just. So So why is that? Why would he be here? So the ancient feet that William Blake was talking about were those of Jesus, and asking the question, did he come to England? Have his sacred feet touched this land? People in St Just in Roseland to this day certainly think so. So it boggles my brain about myth and legend. I've spoken about this before, that I just think there is always a seed of truth. It just seems a bizarre thing to make up if it didn't happen. The church was really prevalent. It would almost be heretical, surely, in some way, to say that the Bible's wrong. Well, I suppose it doesn't. The Bible doesn't say it's wrong, does it? It doesn't mention what happened. It jumps from the age of 12 to the age of 18. I think it's 18. Oh no, it's 30. Crikey, that's a long time, isn't it? No wonder they call it the missing years. Anyway, so why would he have come here? His uncle is believed to be a chap called Joseph of Arimathea. And Joseph of Arimathea is recorded in Roman documents and various other sources, not only as being the one that in the Bible say that owned the tomb that Jesus was put in after he was crucified. But also these are more sort of documents. The Romans were brilliant at keeping records of everything, and basically Joseph was a tin magnate. So he was the one that he had a huge fleet of ships, and he was up and down to Cornwall, through all the Phoenician area and up around. And Cornwall, there's loads of history on this out there, that that was one of the key. Devon and Cornwall were the key sources for tin, which was a really important metal to have in that time. So his uncle, he's got missing years, and his uncle is the tin magnate who was travelling with his big fleet of ships. It does seem to make absolute logical sense that he would have come here. There are traditions in St Just. Now, St Just is a bit further down, or a lot further down, and that was a huge tin mining area. They ended up in St Just in the Roseland because they'd blown in from a storm. They were taking shelter from a storm. Coincidental that they both got St Just in the name, I guess. So yeah, that answers the question, how did he get here? Why would he be coming here? Well, I guess maybe it's a bit like childcare on summer break. Everybody needs a bit of childcare. Joseph of Arimathea, as his uncle, would have been very trusted to take care of his nephew. And I think the really interesting key thing is that a lot of people don't know, because we all think there's some sort of, back in some sort of Stone Age, that they were all sort of, heathens and uneducated Egypts and all the rest of it. But actually, Britain, what was England and Wales, and in Ireland, they had them big universities. And there was something like, I can't remember if it was 60,000 universities or 60,000 students would come through Britain each year. The children of the Roman elite, their sons, they would have been sent here to learn. Anyone of any sort of standing, which does sort of also blow it out the water a bit that maybe Jesus came from some sort of poor basic family. But Joseph of Arimathea certainly wasn't poor. He was also in the Sanhedrin. I mean, he was a man of some standing. So anyway, maybe the rest of them were the poor cousins. Who knows? So the big thing was that all the children of any sort of families of any standing, if they wanted to educate their sons, they would send them to the universities. Even Plato came. This is, that's how back in the day it is. Those ancient times had the most amazing universities, and these were run by the Druids. And there are certain parallels between the Essenes, which Jesus was a member of that sect, or certainly has spent a lot of time with them and was close to their teachings. I'll get into that on another video, because it goes up into a much big broader thing about the true history of Britain, and that's not really what this video is about. So focus. So there's a chap, Reverend Dr. Gordon Strachan. He was a Presbyterian pastor in the Church of Scotland. He was a trained architect, and he started researching church history, architecture and contemporary spirituality. And so he started looking into Glastonbury and the whole thing. He was thinking about the hymn as well. And he started looking into traditions of Joseph of Arimathea coming to Glastonbury and bringing Jesus along with him for the ride. In his research, he went to Israel, and he went to Jerusalem, and he went to, all the typical places. He went to the Garden Tomb, where he said it's a beautiful place. He doesn't know whether Jesus really was buried there. But he then, it led him on to a thing. He decided he would ask. There was a local Anglican vicar on duty, and he asked him where Arimathea was. And the guy said, well, it's either a place called Ramla or Ramallah. And we think it's Ramla because there's a church there dedicated to Joseph of Arimathea. So he thought, I must go to that church and go and have a look around the place. And it's 6 miles from Tel Aviv. Anyway, he didn't go there, but he did end up going to Tel Gezer. And this is near Ramler, it turns out. And he went there to look at these standing stones because he'd been in a museum and he saw this little model of these standing stones, and he's like, oh, and call these standing stones. And he was like, oh yeah, no, that's just a model, like, you know, that's in a real place and it's just near Ramler. And he's like, that name again, I'm going to have to go. And there's these lines of standing stones, which he thought, that's interesting. They're not in circles, but they are similar to what we have at home. We have lines of standing stones back here in England, in particular, a lot of them in Somerset and Cornwall. So he was thinking, is there some, you know, deep, forgotten, ancient connection between our lands over here and Jesus's lands over there? Anyway, then in conversation, he found out that the stone rows went north-south, and to the north end was a village called Ireland. And he's thinking, how strange. What a similarity between the names Ireland and Avalon, which is what Glastonbury was called. You know, you hear it being called the Isle of Avalon. And anyway, this led him on all kinds of things that he started looking at. But yeah, it's interesting that there's already such a similar connection in these names. So turning to my book, The Drama of the Lost Disciples, by, I think it's one of my members of my family, because the surname is Jowett, very rare name. And I've been reading this book for about 2 years now. Oh God, dipping in and out of all sorts. But anyway, this book writes about, well, it's all about Glastonbury. It's got the abbey on the front, and it's talking about Joseph of Arimathea coming here. And what it says in here, now I'm going to have to find the bit. That's about Mary coming here. So he's talking about Mary coming over here, Jesus' mother, obviously, coming over here with Joseph of Arimathea. In the Bible, it says that James, I think, was entrusted. Oh no, John was entrusted with Mary. Jesus entrusted Mary, but John went off and wrote all sorts of other things, and Mary was never mentioned in any of his writings. And it's unlikely that he was someone who, being one of Jesus' followers, was in danger. You know, they were killing Christians left, right and centre as years went on. The Romans were. So also there's a name, it's a Greek name, and it's something like Paphothis or so. Anyway, I'm not going to guess it. It basically means that you are entrusted. I think it's like you're entrusted to your brother's husband. Anyways, there was some sort of thing there where, to protect women that became widows, they would be looked after. So in Mary's case, the person that would have taken on Mary would be Joseph of Arimathea. Anyway, talking about her coming, and talking about, you know, further contradiction is given to the claim that Mary remained and died in Jerusalem in the Glastonbury tradition of Our Lady's dowry, bequeathed to her by Jesus himself, the dowry being the little wattle temple Jesus built with his own hands at Avalon, wherein he communed with the Father, and which he dedicated to the affectionate memory of his mother. It was to this hallowed spot that Joseph led Mary with his missionary band when they first embarked in Britain. When Joseph built the first church at Avalon, he continued the dedication, as did St. David when he erected the first stone church, AD 540, over the hallowed wattle temple of Christ, which he had encased in lead for preservation. That's a lot of work. Whew. These points are important to know because the dedications of churches to the Virgin Mary began during the 12th century, the memorial to Mary at Avalon being the only exception. It could only have been so for a very special reason, particularly since the British never officially deified Mary. It had to be for a specific record. Now then, there's a bit also in here, and this is talking about... Now then, I'll find another bit now. Here we go. Now there's an interesting bit here about Jesus being absent from Judea. That Jesus had been absent from Judea for more than an ordinary length of time is proven by the tax incident related in Matthew 17 verse 24. The tax collector accosts Jesus and Peter on their arrival at Capernaum and asks Peter if his master has paid his tax, indicating Jesus to be a stranger subject to tax. Actually, Jesus did not need to pay tax. Capernaum was his domicile, to which the family of Jesus had moved from Nazareth early in his life. Jesus put up no argument, advising Peter to pay the stranger tax, thereby inferring he had been absent for so long that he could be regarded as a stranger. By this act, Jesus admits an absence of years from his homeland. It goes on. Tradition and written testimony assert that Jesus did abide in Britain, and whilst there created a temple of loving testimony to his mother. This was Our Lady's dowry, oh, here comes the word, to which Joseph, the paranymphos, which means bridesman, led her, and where she lived her life out in its sanctity. A wealth of ancient writers, ecclesiastical and secular, affirms it. For over 1,000 years it was commonly spoken of as the church built not by human art. St. Augustine, during his presence in Britain, was quite familiar with the facts and the existence at that time of this hallowed memorial. Of it he writes with delight at great length to Pope Gregory in a letter still extant. He writes with devout acceptance, a part of which reads as follows from Epistolae ad Gregorium Papam. In the western confines of Britain there is a certain royal island of large extent, surrounded by water, abounding in all the beauties of nature and necessaries of life. In it the first neophytes of Catholic law, God beforehand acquainting them, found a church constructed by no human art, but divinely constructed, or by the hands of Christ himself, for this salvation of his people. The Almighty has made it manifest by many miracles and mysterious visitations that he continues to watch over it as sacred to himself and to Mary, the Mother of God. Oh, I love a Mary. So there we go. Divinely constructed by the hands of Christ himself. So I found the bit about Druidic universities. At the time, Druidic universities were the largest in the world, both in size and in attendance, with a listing of 60 large universities and an average attendance of over 60,000 students. This is affirmed by Greek and Roman testimony, which states that the noble and wealthy of Rome and other nations sent their children to study law, science and religion in Britain. One can well pause to grasp the fact that ancient Britain then had acquired a stature with institutions of learning and attendance rivaling that of the USA today. This is written in like 1974-75. Consequently, one is not left in doubt as to why Jesus might have elected to have studied in Britain. So on these missing years, there's lots of evidence he tripped around the place. I've spoken about this before. See my last video. That's all about Jesus and where he's been and what he's been doing. Well, not all of it, but you know, some of the interesting bits. Also here, he's written the Rig Vedas, the ancient religious books of India, were written 1500 BC, and the Druidic religion antedated that of India, circa 1800 BC. The wise men of India record the visit of Jesus among them, stating that he dwelt at Nepal. They also make several references to Britain as a great centre of religious learning. Therefore, on several scores, Jesus would know of the eminence of Druidic religious wisdom. He would know from his uncle Joseph, who frequently visited Britain on his tin mining excursions. It was popular knowledge among the Greeks and Romans who heavily populated Judea. He would know from his association with the wise men of India, and if tradition is true, he would know from personal contact with Britain made when his uncle Joseph took him on his seafaring trips to the country. The thing that always makes me think, coming back to St Justin the Roseland and little people with their little stories, and it's all very local and can't be true. I've been an entrepreneur for years, and I very quickly learned that the very best advertising is by word of mouth. And why is that? Because we are people, doing for people, helping for people, making for people. we are people. And I think in the same way that that positive thing, that word of mouth, that things stick, that stories stay because they're true, because they were a real thing. It wasn't just made up. They even had a saying down in places in Cornwall, if you had, and this is till, might even be said by people today, but till definitely 50s, 60s, 70s, if you had long hair, they'd say, you know, you need to get your hair cut. You're starting to look like Jesus. Trying to keep the videos a bit shorter at the minute. I've got another really exciting project on the go that I'm not going to say anything about just yet. It's kind of not really relevant to this channel other than it's a project that I'm doing, but it's really exciting, and it's taking up a lot of time and commitment, but it's something that really needs to be brought to the world. The time is nigh. So yeah, I'm trying to still keep these videos out. I think they might have to be fortnightly now, and I know I've got at least 36 devout subscribers, so thank you very much, and thank you all for watching this. And yeah, do subscribe to follow me, and if you enjoyed this video, even if you didn't enjoy this video, please just hit the like button. It lets YouTube know that something's good here, and more people should see it. So thank you. Peace be with you.